everything. So if you are going to introduce, like I said, break it into small chunks. Some parents will ask, why can't they learn? And the child will not be frustrated. The child will be also frustrated. That's why some kids hate school. But they hate mathematics. They hate your subject. They hate you. Do you understand? So you have to understand that. Okay, can we continue? Okay. So you have to understand that is a condition of the brain. Then it could be developmental. Early years, that's why it's important. One of the things I also advocate to schools is that do developmental screening. I know school don't want to because school is profit-oriented. And they don't want to spend money. Or they don't want to, that is not for the profit of the school. But oftentimes it comes to blow us in the face. When you admit a child halfway, what test do you do? I'm not saying written test. When I say test, I'm not talking about 1 + 1 is 2. I'm not talking about the development of the domains of their cognitive, fine motor skills. Do you do anything like that? Do you know about vision, about speech and language development? You are not equipped to do that because you are not a psychologist. However, one of the key things, because you're one of the first contacts, early years, first contacts before you pass them on to primary school. Who are those in primary? So when I point to, so before you pass them on to primary school, you're already passing a deficit to them. And like I said, if there's no synergy of report, that after a while, maybe after the session, they and you, primary 1, they look at from the last session in your own school or your own class, then you'll be able to understand this and the strength of this child. So when you pass the child over to you, you understand that this child, so that you have a prior information. So developmental, it will be from birth. Most disabilities are from what? Birth. Learning difficulty from birth. Most. And like I said, from my hereditary too. If a parent, and you will not know when any parent tell you that he has learning difficulty in school. All our parents in school, they all carry first. When they tell you, when I was in school, I used to carry first. And I asked myself, who used to carry second? All of them carry first. Okay, so it's developmental. Then again, so somebody should tell me when he's starting with this one. Let's go to that. So it's developmental, it will be neurological. Neurological means the brain. Autism is from the brain. Let me autism from the brain. Cerebral palsy is the brain damage. Name it, so it's neurological. And anything that is neurological, what will you do? If you don't know how, you cannot cure it. Even if you do extra hours, if you don't do the right things, it's still not going to work. When I said break into small chunks, if you bombard the child with so much lessons, in the hope that it will get there, you're just stressing the brain, and the brain has switched off. Doesn't have the capacity to assimilate all that. But if you do 2 today, 2 tomorrow, and you're consistent and you're doing revision, you will get a better result than you were saying that in your school. Because there's no system in our educational system that says special ed can come to your school, psychologists can come to your school and help you to put things in structure. That you will not be the victim. Teachers are often the victims. So because I see a move. So they covered that the reason why we are doing this is because the psychologists have advised us when they get to secondary school, we narrow down the subjects. We are not going to do. How many subjects do you do in secondary school, sir? JSS 1 to 3. 18. Imagine. And somebody has learning differently. So who are we deceiving? So somebody will tell the parents and the school, we are narrowing down because the subject of this child is 7, 8. So one of my kids in the school in Bagada is going to year 5 now. So he's going to do your common entrance. Now we started. It's not good. Okay, thank God it's that 3 subjects or 4 subjects. I'm not sure. From year 3, we started cutting down on subjects. I love his mom. His mom is a practical person. I know what my child is going to do. The child has autism. Even is a plus that is coping in school. He has a facilitator, someone that stays with him school. But he's coping socially now. He now plays with others. So we cut that, we sat down, we do an IEP meeting, meaning individualized educational program. We did the meeting. So we look at his favorite subjects and the one that can help him expose, get him exposed. We narrow it down to these subjects. I think about 6 or 7. So all the other one, French, somebody is still learning to speak English well. I want to put French. Yoruba, away. Some subjects that are very similar. Social studies go here because it will help you to build social skills. Do you understand? So one of the things that you will look into is a neurological issue. And if you cannot cure it, you can only treat and make the child gain skills. Don't let anybody tell you that there is a cure for autism. You can Google it. In the US, that they are spending billions of dollars and there's no cure. Even the reasons are still, the causes are still shown. It's either genetic or this or environmental. So what do we do is to help that situation. That's why if you have understanding of this and try to put a lot into the time, you will be able to help the child. Don't put the child under pressure, then help the parents to also come to terms with the challenge the child has. So it's neurological, it will be learning or intellectual. So most disabilities have learning issues. Most. Even when they are not that affected, they are still affected. They may learn in a different way. They may not learn this. When we talk about learning styles, how many of you know learning styles? Kinesthetic, visual, auditory. We will not touch on. So this is one of the things that works for our children. You know, I don't know, many teachers, how many of us are very creative? Early years at primary school. You know yourself that I am creative. I can draw something, I can cut something, I can. So we have to. You cannot help your children with learning if you are not creative. If you are doing the 1 + 1 is 2 and only on the board, you're not going to be found with these kids. So one of the key things is for all of us to be creative. Even when you're teaching in the secondary school, I was teaching a child about planting and osmosis. So my staff, we came together, and I hate everything is only based on book. It's not right. Some of our kids are not going to learn like that. So let's start. What is the issue? What should we do? Just plant, get beans, get the experience. Then if you put it towards the sun, that's what. Is that not what your osmosis is all about? Instead of just saying it verbally, bring pictures and so we're going to talk a little bit about it. Then it will be sensory. Most disability, you know about sensory, you know about senses? Yes. In disability, like your learning difficulty, most of them have sensory issues. That's why they cannot write very well. And you are hating, look at your writing. But you've not treated that issue from early years. Early years, we learn what to do. I don't know who's going to help us. Why do we learn ABC 1, 2, 3 in early years? It's not right. The kids don't play with sand, play with Play-Doh, water, don't paint with their hands. That's when you develop all these things so that they don't get this. Even if they have issues, you're already addressing it, even if you don't know. Well, what's the first thing we give to them? Early years, what is the first thing? Friendship. Be strong. Google, or you get to educational system in Finland and in Japan. They are very, very wonderful. They will sleep. I know here they sleep during the school hours. I know here you will always sleep. You say, you want to waste your father's money. Kids sleep now. They are kids for God's sake. They need to sleep now. And they go to school in Japan. They pay money and they sleep now. They don't take homework home. You take homework home in 10 years. You do their homework. Wow. I know they're putting you under pressure. I know. It's what we need to start addressing. Do your research. Let them read up themselves. It's wrong. Taking homework to do what they are going to be professor in 3 years, 4 years. I know. So sensory, your writing, your vision, your hearing. You see some people just love pictures, some even if you dwell. So what else can we do? Some just want to argue. So teachers start noticing the one that love to argue every time. It's not because his mommy has spoiled him. It will be like that. That is the whole style of learning. So when you're teaching this, you touch it, you listen. So that's when your style of learning comes to play. You don't just learn it in isolation. Start noticing the child that loves to work every word. People be kinesthetic. The child that loves to write and call everything, okay, maybe this one is visual learning. Start to know. Look at those characteristics and so you segment the child into this group and to that group. It will help you a lot. Then it will be multiple. Like I said, most disability are multiple. Maybe somebody has visual issue, you have learning issue. People have processing issue. It's not all the time, but most times they are multiple. Next slide. So what disability is not, because I know that it's not spiritual attack. I'm a Christian and I try a bit. It's not a spiritual attack. If you read, it's a Christian school, am I right? Exodus 14 and 11, when Moses asked God sending him to fire, I cannot talk, I cannot do this. Read verse 11, who made the deaf, who made the blind? That was God's question, John chapter 9. The man that was born blind. He said, why is it not born blind? You are asking Jesus. What did he say? Christians? So God will make somebody blind from, and will make somebody have very difficulty. So parents think like that. Before you get a lot of parents who want to get away from this, especially we that are spiritual. That's when we look at mother-in-law, father-in-law. It's my answer to that is God just look at you and dish it out. Deal with it. I've seen rich poor, very rich, very poor, have this specialties. Someone that can Bible words, and someone that don't have hope. So it's not. Then it's not because it's not a result as a result of family style. You can be rich, you can be poor, you can be educated. Professor have kids with special needs. Autism, professor. And you say then it's not infectious or contagious. Parents, so when you educate them, disability and it's not a punishment, and mothers are not to blame, it's not because of the husband. So it comes. So let's go to the next slide so I can cover everything. So common types of disabilities. So we're going to narrow down to your own now. Intellectual disability, hearing. How many of us have seen visually impaired people that will go blind and hearing impaired? Then developmental disability. Who can give me one example? Someone has said someone now. Like autism is a developmental disability. Dyslexia. And dyslexia, here it is. But that's where one of the areas where they have cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, their physical disability, obviously. People with some down wheelchair, polio. So let's go. So what now we're going to learning difficulties. So now when you see that definition, you will read it. So you now see one or two kids that you have in your class that are displaying these characteristics. Let's read it. 1, 2, go. So when we get that, I'll give Mr. Mr. Babachide the slides so you can have it and send it to your WhatsApp. One thing, our traditional classroom settings, if we don't alter some things, it will be difficult for those children that have learning difficulties to try. The sitting arrangement, where they sit, their own placement, the area in your room, the colors in your room, the lighting in your room, the way you attract their interests. Their emotional safety. Most of our children don't have emotional safety. Meaning, when you bring out mathematics, they lost it. They are already afraid. You understand? Because they are not emotionally safe with mathematics. When you say it's reading time because the child has reading issues, maybe dyslexia, the child cows in and loses his composure. So one of the things that we must do, our traditional classroom setting, the way our context, we need to start altering one or two things in order for us to include our children with their difficulties. So let's read the second one.
It makes it harder for someone to learn and understand the whole thing.
So certainly teachers that it's harder for them to learn than the other kids. Why? Why did I say so? Why now? You just read it now. The last line, the first definition.
Someone's brain.
So don't think that the child is being lazy. You know, at times, he's just lazy, job. Hasn't he eaten? His mother has been doing this. He's just lazy. So the third line, let's read together.
It tends to take a longer time to learn, and many need support to develop their skills, understand complicated information, and interact with others.
Okay, what I've not said is understand complicated information. You know, when we are teaching, we need to be very, very careful with the words we use. Our sentences, our grammar, our construction. How to go down to the level of children and students. How do we come down so that we express ourselves in the language they understand? If we are not careful with that, if you don't put it into consideration, the way I'm talking to you is not the way I'm talking to you. Maybe teaching a child with speech defects or learning difficulties. It's going to be simple, short, and concise. And there will be pauses, maybe for feedback or for body gestures. So, but when we do as if we're in university, when we're in university, nobody sends you. If you like the way yourself, he doesn't care. We just spend 1 hour and do. Well, you can't do that for kids, for students in secondary school. Even when they are 15, 14, 13, you can't. Especially now when the child has been learning difficulty. So this is important. Your information, then when you're teaching something new, how many of us, like I said, you don't have to be creative. Thank God, then there was nothing like phone and internet. So now, it's easy. If you are teaching anything under this one, you will get materials. How many of you use Pinterest? Not to search for clothes. I'm searching for materials. I'm searching for ideas. Teachers, that's how, I don't know how we can have fun teaching when we don't do that. When I'm teaching anything, I just like I'm a social educator, then I'm now basically doing speech therapy. But when I'm telling my members, okay, what are we going to do? Because we plan for the next day before we leave. Because what are you going to do? What are we going to teach apart from the therapy? And they say, maybe we're doing numbers or something. I want to see examples of materials that you are creating. You have to be creative so that you draw the interest of the one that are visual individual, the one that got you can enjoy the interest of everybody. So it's very key. No matter what I tell you, if you are not willing to change the way you get to children, to teach them, it's not going to happen. Even they are in secondary school, if you are not going to come down to their level, if you are not going to pull them aside at times, it's not going to work. If you expect them to go at the pace of everybody, it's still not going to work. So we have to do extra time, we have to do extra information, break the information down. So next slide, please. So sign of learning difficulties. So I look at the early signs, I look at the latter signs. Somebody said about attention. From early years till they get to secondary school, a child that doesn't have, will not help him or her with attention. It will only change the weight he or she now doesn't give you attention. It will only change, but you still be there. And when the child doesn't give attention, how is he going to learn? So you need to look at that, the early signs, or in your later years, those that have graduated to secondary school. They are easily bored, they easily switch off. When they get to secondary school, that's when you see them, they are just looking at you. They are afraid that you just leave. So attention is key. When they have problems with attention span, maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes, they say, no, and I go to the television, they are just bored. They want to leave in class because their attention span is short. Then trouble following instructions. The instruction you write or the one you verbally communicate, they often have issues with it. Again, I said something, the way their brain is wired. So processing information will be what? Will be slow. That's why we need to also think about that early years. Give it, like I said, you are teaching, you are giving time. You give an instruction, you give a little bit of 10 seconds, 20 seconds to see the reaction before you move on to the next thing. But because you know we want to do 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or we want to get the results. That's why I said one of the major issues we have with this inclusion in school is there's no system. I mean the national policy system that will guide education so that parents can also know that this is why we are doing this. There no parent can put pressure on the teacher because your child has special needs, learning difficulties, no matter what it is you have. So it's going to be different from that for that child. So, trouble for instruction, direction. That's why in secondary school, sir, do two and two other and number one. Maybe you do number one and other two, and you see that child will do whatever. And often, if it's consistent, you know that something is going to ask that maybe that child has difficulty. As learning difficulties, and they're like that. It's not. They don't read instructions. They don't. They are fidgeting. They are jumping from one thing to the other. They are the first to finish it. They're not done number two. They are asked to do number three. They're not going to do. But in whatever they go number. So, but when this, as early years to primary school, when you notice that a child will have difficulty following directions. You know, it's simple, I mean, and it looks seemingly unimportant, am I right? That's why we miss it. Someone like me, I will not miss it. I know it's something. It's communicating to me, something is happening. Then we now look at other areas. When we have about 2 or 3 other criteria, something is happening. But all regular teachers just think that, okay, it's just that it's not calm, and you just downplay it. And eventually, when the child gets to this part in secondary school, that is becoming. He doesn't like school, he doesn't like academics, so look at all those stuff. But from early years, those signs are there. That's why I tried to know when I was in secondary school. I wasn't sure that early years, but let me just address it so that early years can help the child. That when you pass the child over to primary school, we all know that this child has a case history of not following direction. So you understand how do you help the child? Maybe you put a sticker. That I said is. These are awareness. You go to the sticker and star. So the child can focus on that. So there are many ways that we can address this. I can't totally do this in 30 minutes. Clumsiness. poor space orientation, going to be the one to scatter your table. You tell them to bring paper, everything is just clumsy. Their book is torn, their bag is water in it. You see kids now, as young as 4, the way they are going to be arranged in their bag. And not I used to have that one every day they are playing the bag, listening to their song every day. So, poor space orientation, hyperactivity, she said it. So our is a sign of learning difficulty. And like I said, note, it's not only one. The child will have shown you maybe 3, 4, 5 things so that you know that something is wrong with them. It's not only one of them, but there will be a catalog of it as well. So all these criteria, when you know all these signs, they are called red flags. It will help you when you say about 3 or 4 in this child, look at it very well. You can read up if you want to. Then I will leave you some stuff. You can sound somebody up that knows this, because at times, like I said, when you miss it, it's going to be a problem for second place. Even in primary school, it will be a problem. So some hyperactivity, they're just there. You know those ones that don't talk, don't move anymore. And at times, yes, it's good to be quiet, but at times it's not only that. When you see other things, they are quiet, but they are not doing anything, they are not putting their weight, they are not following the class. But it's just, and teachers will like that, will like this kind of things because they are not giving you one. Okay, let's move on. Okay, progress with reading and writing. Madam said about what did they call it again? The mathematics, what is that? It will be mathematics, dyscalculia. So there's another dyscalculia, dysgraphia is our writing. The dyspraxia is our motor skills. So it's at 4. So more memory, that's what we now see, especially in our exams and our tests. But all along, the other signs have shown us that there's a red flag here with this child. But what we often notice was academics, but no, it's not only about academics. So other signs, please keep it in your memory bank. All those signs will now culminate into now your poor memory, your examination is not remembering anything. Or after all you don't, I've seen it in school. I still work with many schools. I'm not mentioning in and you go by here. So those are the kids that say we come and guilty. They want the child out of trouble, disgusting. I don't do that with parents now. But when these signs are already obvious and you call the attention of the parent and the school to this, then you're able to cover yourself that all around has said. I don't know if you do a report like that here. In some schools I work at, I've told them that when you notice this, that you do a formal report, then do an email to the parents. Maybe you cannot do, you have no problem. So then you do a meeting. So that when the child gets to the terminal class, let's say they will now blame Mrs. He said she was in Mrs. So-so-so's class. When she noticed them well, I know parents now, she was doing the same thing. But when all this has been put in place, you're covered, the school is covered, you're only trying to synergize and not to child. So problems, staying organized, sense of time, sensory. Don't forget that sensory, because like I said, it's not in your body. But when you know about it, it will be auditory, it will be visual, it will be anesthetic, it will be like I told you about the whole thing. Always note it. It's positive and negative. It will be used for as an advantage, it will also be a problem. There's what is called sensory processing disorder. Okay. Then I have condition issues. Like I was talking about the shootings. And it's asked to do with writing. Am I right? If you don't have a good eye hand condition, how can you write? So it will go down the lines. So what you need to do. So when you know that, what do you do? So you have to start creating borders. You have to start doing writing serious exercises. Even when the child is in the secondary school. My wife works with Lagos State and she She said, she told me that oftentimes the reason why some of our children feel white is because of their writing. The person marking the white has how many scripts to mark? So this bundle, so here comes this brilliant child, but writes slowly and it's not legible. What happens? The guy is just frustrated, just. You understand? So, but we can help when we know, don't downplay handwriting. Do exercises. There are loads of materials on the internet that you can download, print. Tell the parents to do it if really it's not your responsibility. For someone like that's what you want. Tell the person they can download or buy. Then they just start doing exercises. So let's move on. So courses, and you will see, because I said it has to do with the brain and the physiological area of human beings. Most of the learning difficulties issues you are seeing or you're going to see has to do with this. Most. So illness, meningitis, jaundice, I've seen many jaundice issues. Child don't cry, that's what's it called? Lack of oxygen to the brain. Jaundice, yellow eye, and all these things. Will downplay at times. Bless God, the child overcomes. Do you know jaundice can affect the physical ability of the child? The child not able to walk, the child not able to sit. Do you know that? Because I'm just talking to so at times, what causes the learning difficulties during the child as jaundice? They keep telling you at times, oh my God. Can't you hear? Thank you very much. So at times, it's like that will have affected the brain of the child. So, do you take history any years now? Do you take history, child history in your school?
Yes, but not yes, not like a real pre-assessment or assessment per se when you talk about special needs. But we do, as in we do that the history of a child.
Is there a form?
Yes.
That is when the child is born, first
exactly
the first time is out, the first time he was, the first time the detail.
This is what you're talking about, that is pre-assessment. We don't do it like that.
I'm not. Any years is key. So that I'm trying to protect your future. That's what because I know parents, we're all parents, when we get, because we pay for the service, am I right? We want top notch. And at times it doesn't work like that. So one of the things I also advise people, if you are doing any years, just have a description. Like I do, I have. So I know the first time, the child did not work out more than they have 2, 3, so I know but the story, my president, the only thing is that it's not talking. I'm just laughing. I will not be doing that's the only time. Not the only thing. But when we now begin to look at this, we're not pointing them to that this is point out to me, this is a point out to me. So it might not be as detailed as us, but you need it. Something that you get on the internet, you see history forms, medical history forms, and so you can now tweak it and to your own purpose, so that when they come, if their developmental milestones are not met, you know the developmental milestones, when they are not met, we weigh some things. When a child did not sit until 1 year, walk 2 years, so there's already a delay. You know the problem here is that we don't have lots of people that can do diagnosis, even doctors, diagnose normally, because it's not there. Especially if those things are not common. You've not seen it before. It's the one that I've seen that can talk to you about it because I've seen. So rare symptom that maybe it's only 10 people or 20 people that have it in the whole world, and it's a syndrome. So I'm lucky to see one. Other people I know I've seen it, maybe they're not even hard about it, but because of maybe most of us not happen. So you understand? So that they also happen to the doctors. They just tell them, don't worry, there's nothing wrong. It's the life. So, Johnny's injury to the head, long labor, so anything that affects the brain, anything that, the brain at infant is still forming, very tender. Any insult, any injury will affect the child. So, it will be genetics, I've said it. If there's a line of learning difficulty in the family, it's possible. Like another child, even as far as autism, I've seen, although there's no empirical evidence, but I have seen cousins, I have seen siblings have autism. Some of them have 2 kids too, both of them have autism. So I've seen, but yet Oyibo says they've not, but I've seen a couple. So, but because we don't do research here, because it's capital intensive, we have to go everywhere. But I have seen. So when they say autism is not genetic or hereditary, when I have seen so be careful exposure to lead and prenatal poor nutrition. So let's go on to that. So we're looking at remediation and intervention. We talk about learning stuff. So because you're at school, and I've talked about it a bit, one of the things that all of us need to also know and put into cognizance is the learning styles of our children. Bearing it in mind now, you know that the child has some issues. It's not mental issue, because Mr. Saturday said has issue with the brain. It's not mental issue, illness. It's not mental illness. It's developmental learning. So it's learning. So the child will be good in other areas, sports. He will be a good sport person, swim. He will be a good artist. But it's in your academics that the child is lagging behind, am I right? So it's not the mental illness, but the way the brain of the child is wired makes it difficult for the child to learn your processes, your maths, your English, your sciences. So now, if we will take this into cognizance, there's always part of the brain that is easily attracted to one thing. We all have it here. Some of us is music. Some of us is reading. Some of us is going out. Some social skills. Because going out is a skill. That's why I asked you already what can you teach? Social skills is key. Some of us, the reason why we are not gotten some of the things we need to get is because of our social skills. We are not social people. We are quiet people. Even when we go to church, we are on our own with our phone. When we go to parties, we don't talk to anybody. And we want to meet people. Or we don't go out at all. Even when we have the opportunity to meet 1 or 2 people, we are looking down. You understand? So it's key. Visual, so all these learning style, tactile, verbal, everyone is important. So when you are preparing a lesson, give me a topic. Somebody should give me a topic. Oh yeah, family. Who said family? Somebody said family, am I right?
Yes.
Family. For primary school session, somebody should read on the line. Primary. Okay, I know how to do primary, how will you teach it? Family. Now, bearing in mind, you understand? I meant how it was just the statement.
How about and at the same time, I'm just for the ones that are taller, we're looking at their height as well. So I will use them to say this is the father, this is the mother, this is the children. And at the same time, I will also show them pictures, videos of what they have.
Another person, any addition?
Is it like a tactile and
Because I'm not, you ask me a question. Just I want us to now begin to think in this way that when we are doing anything from year 1 to secondary school, if we have a child, first of all, do your own assessment. What is the learning style of that child that is giving you some difficulty? You think that the child has, because you are not in the position to diagnose that the child has. Let's say the child is lagging behind. Let's agree. Do your own assessment. Okay, what interests? You know, it's because we are conventional. If a child comes up with anything outside the way you want to teach, what do? Sit down here and listen. That's what we do. And do what? And the child doesn't want to listen, he wants to see. If I could see any of my teachers, personally, from primary school, I went to Western primary school, secondary school, any, I was happy. Now today, if they call me, I'll go and meet them and get this. Thank God that God is not good. They have casted my life. Now, I was one of those kids who don't like it, who strong song. Playing, tearing his button, fighting. I was one of those. Till secondary school. So they've given up on me. I wish I see one of them. And they are okay. Not sat down to look at that, this stubborn boy. What can we do to love them? No. Even in NC, there's only one person who thought, oh, wait a minute, I never forgot that. She just looked at this like, God, the child was we should try and teach us. Even at NC, for when I met Christ, that everything changed. But she tried to change everything, so to speak, surprised me. I never knew I could do this talk, so I could do this collective. I never knew. I thought I was alone, I did see about 3 or 4 times. Not because I didn't know, it's because I don't usually read. I believe that I know reading, the word I've had is enough. Until an event happened and I started reading, and I love reading. Because now I can tell you about many things, I wasn't like this before. So imagine some of us are like that. You said that child will never. I said if I see any one of them, I could recognize you. I'll tell you how we do it. They never gave me a chance. And some, if not for Christ, maybe I would have, I used to say, I'm at the park. Because that was, I used to know people like that. So please, teachers, I know it's tough, but you go help somebody. None of them help me. No. If not for Christ, it was when I started going to church, knew Christ, started reading all these books, and all those books. This could be. So that's when I delved into my fields, read, go to this book, go to that box. None of them thought I would ever be anything. So please, don't only think that, listen to me, especially secondary school, because you think that they are old enough. They are not old enough. I never, all those things I did, what's my own? Never knew the consequences. Never counted it as anything. So please, it's important that, like I said, I will use some of my notes as my our center's brochures. You can call me or send a WhatsApp. Can help free of charge. Personally, so the school will help. Because at times I look at myself, so if not for Christ, so always put tactile learners too. There some people just want to touch. You can create, let them touch that family, good. Let them touch family, touch the picture. It's the way God wired the brain, it's not us. It's for us to detect and help the child make use of the strengths, not the weaknesses. Leave the weaknesses. Now, if you bring anything, even I don't count till today, if I go to the bank, they give me 500 and take it 100,000, I will not count it. If it's 1,000, I can't give you, I will count it. But it's 500. How many minutes? 30, 10. So I will not count. So I get maths. Till now, now, and it's not my fault, it's my master's fault. We will film the word. We will talk, not connecting. Teaching maths. He wasn't teaching students, he was teaching what? Maths, but not the students. So after I saw some of these good guys that knows maths, I encourage you, they will go follow you. We that are playing, and that's the now look back. Today what are you doing there? Get out! So now I don't, what's my own with mathematics, but what I'm doing it. Let's move on. So please put all this musical, you can sing songs. Teachers, I know you say, teacher, you can sing songs, create songs. You can create songs to teach. Early years primary school, secondary school, that their themes and their shake. Some of them, okay, how do somebody that doesn't know your math can sing a shake from 1 to 8? How come? He knows something. It's only the style you're going to use. He knows. There's nobody he knows. But can you sing? They will sing, and even the beat, they will do the beat with their mouth. So please. So what can I do? You have to break learning into small steps. Please. I know it's at times difficult because you want to cover everything. What is that child? I know they will not be that wicked to give you 3 or 4 kids out there in the class. Am I right? Am I right?
Yes.
It's only one child. So when you do the rest, the others that can follow, let them follow, let them go through. Now for that child, break it into chunks. That's why I said you have to come close to the child. You have to be closer so that you think, okay, now instead of teaching the whole lesson, your own, you are going to just emphasize one-on-one, half. Then tomorrow, during break, tell the child, reach an agreement with the child. Secondary school teachers, reach an agreement. So your own break, out of your break, I'm using 20 minutes, you use 10 minutes. Explain to the child. Early years is easy. Come and do. You will answer your votes. Secondary, primary, I don't think primary will object. It's only secondary that can object. But when you reach an agreement, you can get a lot done. One-on-one teaching, apply that to all the style of learning, the multimodal approach, apply it for the child. Accommodation, now talk about allow extra time. This one, in your exam, it should be like that. Any child that has any learning difficulty, extra time, extra resources. You are doing your tests, you are teaching them. That's what is called accommodation. For the mere fact that you have admitted that child into your school, you must provide the extra materials. That's why I said one of the things you need to do is to work with synergy with the parents. So if you need a photocopy that school is not providing, let the parent provide now. If you need something, pencil grip, how many of us know pencil grip? Pencil grip. Let the parent provide now. I know school will not provide here because I don't think that's your work. Let the parent so that the child will have more encouragement to write. And you can create one instead now. Positive reinforcement. We don't do this in Nigeria. It's only in early years and but you do it separately in Nigeria, not in your school. I said in Nigeria. Beautiful. Secondary school, they do it. How do you reward? How do you reinforce? Somebody said you do it here. How do I'm just curious because I know us now in Nigeria. I'm not in your school. So
we just encourage them by
Give
sometimes.
The end of the year.
Not the end of the year, like teachers, like we are.
Okay, you teachers. Okay, beautiful.
I think for me, I was okay, if I reach this cut of mark, I have something for you. Because of the
cut off mark in Japan.
No, for my subject. If you can give me this mark, I have something for you. And then I see that you're coming to me often and often. Explain this. And at the end of the day, the child is
That's
one.
awesome. You see, you've aroused the interest. Awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. So there are many ways you can reinforce our children positively. Many ways. Did you buy them? Initially, you didn't buy them anything. You just give them a target. Then if you are going out to buy them stuff, even if you're going to give them something, you're going to celebrate them in the front class, there are many things you can do. Encouragement is good that you do that, but it's also good on daily basis, on each lesson, especially for the kids that have learning difficulty. So if you do this, you measure it, not the large, but small chunks, and you celebrate it. You can give them extra privileges. So it's important. Okay, awareness of certain arrangements. Also note that don't put the child that you know is always distracted far from you. Let the person be away from distraction or sitting arrangement with A and B, you know, if they sit together. Then cooperative learning, simplify and shorten. I've said that in my let's go on. My time is almost up. Okay, I want you to play this. Can we have the microphone now, sir? So that we can put this. I want you all to listen. Pause it. I must go that do that. I want everyone to listen.
Story of Teddy
I
Stein.
want you to listen. It's not how to
Today, I would like to tell you a story about a little boy called Teddy and a teacher called Jean Thompson who made an important impact on him. Jean Thompson stood in front of her fifth grade class on the very first day of school in the fall and told the children a lie. Like most teachers, she looked at her pupils and said that she loved them all the same, that she would treat them all alike. And that was impossible, because there in front of her, slumped in his seat on the third row, was a little boy named Teddy Stein. Mrs. Thompson had watched Teddy the year before, and noticed he didn't play well with the other children, that his clothes were unkempt, and that he constantly needed a bath. And Teddy was unpleasant. It felt to the boy during the first few months that she would actually take delight in marking his papers with a broad red pen, making bold X's, and then marking the F at the top of the paper, biggest of all. Because Teddy was a sullen little boy, no one else seemed to enjoy him either. At the school where Mrs. Thompson taught, she was required to review each child's records and put Teddy's off to last. When she opened his file, she was in for a surprise. His first grade teacher wrote, "Teddy is a bright, inquisitive child with a ready laugh. He does his work neatly and has good manners. He is a joy to be around." His second grade teacher wrote, "Teddy is an excellent student, well liked by his classmates, but he has trouble because his mother has a terminal illness, and life at all must be a struggle." His third grade teacher wrote, "Teddy continues to work hard, but his mother's death has been hard on him. He tries to do his best, but his father doesn't show much interest, and his whole life will soon affect him if some steps aren't taken." Teddy's fourth grade teacher wrote, "Teddy is withdrawn and doesn't show much interest in school. He doesn't have many friends and sometimes sleeps in class. He is tardy and could become a problem." By now, Mrs. Thompson realized the problem, but Christmas was coming fast. It was all she could do with the school play and all, until the day before the holidays began, and she was suddenly forced to focus on Teddy Stein. Her children brought her presents, all in beautiful ribbon and bright paper, except for Teddy's, which was clumsily wrapped in the heavy brown paper of a scissored grocery bag. Mrs. Thompson took pains to open it in the middle of the other presents. Some of the children started to laugh when she found the rhinestone bracelet with some of the stones missing, and the bottle that was 1/4 full of cologne. She stifled the children's laughter when she explained how pretty the bracelet was, head start with it, and would graduate from college with the highest of honors. He assured Mrs. Thompson she was still his favorite teacher. Then, 4 more years passed, and yet another letter came. This time, he explained that after he got his bachelor's degree, he decided to go a little further. The letter explained that she was still his favorite teacher, but that now his name was a little longer. The letter was signed, Theodore F. Stoddard, M.D. The story doesn't end there. You see, there was yet another letter that spring. Teddy said he met this girl and was to be married. He explained that his father had died a couple of years ago, and he was wondering, well, if Mrs. Thompson might agree to sit in the pew, usually reserved for the mother of the room. And guess what? She wore that bracelet, the one with several rhinestones missing, and right then on that special day, Gene Thompson smelled just like, well, just like the way Teddy remembered his mother smelling on their last Christmas together. They hugged each other, and Dr. Stoddard whispered in Mrs. Thompson's ear, "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson, for believing in me. Thank you so much for making me feel important and showing me that I can make a difference." Mrs. Thompson, with tears in her eyes, whispered back. She said, "Teddy, you have it all wrong. You were the one who taught me that I can make a difference. I didn't know how to teach until I met you." And the story ends here. You never can tell what type of impact you may make on another's life by your actions or lack of action. Consider this fact in your venture through life.
Okay. How many of us listen? Because Teddy could have been missed and he would have ended up. So I could relate. So please, as I close, I want you to remember, if you don't remember anything, I know it's tough teaching kids, then having a child or 2 kids with special needs or learning difficulties in your class. But it will help a lot in the life of that or 2 kids. Lastly, I want you to stand up. Lastly, we are done. Sorry, I'm tired. Okay. When we all stand up, we will do something. Next slide, sir. The next slide. Now, I want us to read this together. We will read it together.
My personal approach that creates my life is my daily move and daily weather. As a teacher, I possess the tremendous power in unity of life, beautiful or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can be the agent of remove, out or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether I crisis will be isolated or be isolated. A child with eyes or human eyes.
Thank you very much for listening to me. My name is
and the knowledge impacted this morning. A lot of things have been revealed through your presentation, which we probably took for granted in the course of our teaching. And having heard all these things, it will help us to prepare better and to relate more impactfully on the children in our care. And I promise to be leading you again, because this cannot be a one-off thing. So maybe at a professional level, I'll have a discussion with the director. We need to be having this series so that the impact can be more. So that, like you said, they might not be many, but they also they need attention. So, and what they are able to do with their lives and what they turn out to be, we try to get that stuff. And then as a school, we are very particular and intentional about what the children are. That is why I know that the director will be like, have somebody like you come in from time to time to remind us of how to handle the children. Thank you so very much.
So
to be with the chairman, and it's coming up by 1 o'clock, which is going to be, like we promised yesterday, a short book reading together and then an impartation. After which we'll all go back and then start preparing for resumption. Is that okay? Yes. So it's your break time. Enjoy it as much as you can.